Welcome to the start of a new anime review series. This is one of the ones I did want to get to, but I didn't exactly think at first this would definitely be the first show I get into when I got my break from Tokusatsu. So here's my first anime. It is called, and I told the voice actress I'm going to get into it. She was actually very happy I got into this one. It is called, get this, when I heard this title, I had to check it out because it sounds so interesting. And has a lot of stuff I like. It's similar to Masuko Tensei. Yes, in a minor sort of way. Also reminds me of Parallel Pharmacy, a little bit. What is the name of the series? The Eighth Son? Are you kidding me? Yes, that is the name of the title of the series. It is hilarious. I told Veronica Taylor, who does voice one of the characters in the series. By the way, I did look up. Her character does make a debut into episode 9. Yes, episode 9. Now, in these 3 episodes, we're discussing the first 3 of the 12 episodes released for the series. Now, I don't know if we're going to season 2 or not. I have no idea. Now, these episodes come with the very first light novel released. Out of, I think it's 20, if I'm not mistaken. 27. Yes, 27. Now, these episodes are The Eighth Son, Are You Kidding Me? Us a Section Dispute, Are You Kidding Me? Alone, Are You Kidding Me? For some strange reason, and I do not know why this is, the first 2 episodes that are like serialized, and then we have a time skip. Yes, a time skip for not much reason. Isn't much, let's say, stuff happening per se. Well, they do mention some stuff that was skipped. Not showing the anime. Now, the thing starts off with the main character of the series, who, by the way, his name is Wendell. Yes, his name is Wendell. And he's like technically the first character you see, but here's kind of the strange thing about this guy here. He's one of those characters who was isekai, definitely. I'll show you this about him. He basically, when he first shows up, like, first of which his real name is, when he started off as Shigo Imado, he basically just from what I could tell anyways, he was a office worker who's always come up exhausted from work, and then he decides to sleep for a bit, wakes up, and basically makes dinner at midnight, and then he falls asleep again, and then he wakes up in the body of, get this, in the anime described as a 5-year-old boy, despite in the book, I think he said it was 6. Yes. Now, also in the book, also in the anime, so they start off differently than in the book for some reason. You see, in the book, they start off with him like in his room someplace. In the anime, they start off at his eldest brother's wedding. Now, it takes him a bit to find. It takes him like next to find out that he actually is the youngest. I mean, he knows he's the youngest son. He assumed at first he's the 3rd son. Then he finds out with the other sibling, he's actually the 8th son. That's where it comes from. So, you see, he thinks he's probably some very powerful ability. There's curtains all over the place. Now, what is the reason for the curtains? Well, they do explain exactly the reason why in the very same episode. Now, they dictate this from the book. That apparently his family, by the way, his name in the New World is Weldon von Benno Bausmeister. Yes, that is his name. And he's usually called Well for short. Yeah, or Well or Vel. Now he's a young child. Now you see him interacting with his brother Eric, who actually in the book he has some a lot of advice. He does explain it really well, which I do appreciate the anime keep this part in about this character. Most of what he's there now it's described in the book that he's the 5th son. Here's the strange thing, though. In the anime, they don't specifically say he's 5th son at this point. It's very believed he's actually the 5th son. Now, here's the thing about him and some of his brothers. Now, his oldest brother, they kind of swapped this for some reason. Let's see if I can find it here. Now, for some reason, they had it where Kurt, yes, Kurt, He does appear in the anime, except that for some reason they kind of swapped out the fact that, and this is just some quite strange though. I think they swapped the names over. So it is wedding. Now, he of course basically is getting married. Apparently, his marriage was arranged by his father to marry a noble woman to supposedly create a succession line. Okay, and it's explained both in the anime and the book. Only the eldest child can inherit all the land. They can't exactly divide the land because they can't afford that. Do that. So all of it has to go to the eldest son, and the second son can stay behind and be a spare. That's most of it exactly what's explained here. Now, after the marriage, for some reason, the wife is there. Her name is Amelia. Now, here's the thing. There's actually an interlude in the book itself where she has a private conversation with her mother-in-law, Will's mother. It's a great conversation. I don't know what it was, but I remember it was a really good conversation. Now, in the book, she refers to his mother-in-law. I don't know why that's further that. Excuse me. You would think because she's married to, because she would basically be respectful and call her mother. Instead, calls her mother-in-law. I thought this was quite weird. I mean, they should call her brother-in-law's brother-in-law. Now, the one thing they do cut out here is, calling his older brother when he talks to, in the book, basically, they use Japanese on a reference, which the translation I read. He refers Eric Anichi, basically kind of like older brother. Like, for some reason, he can't refer to himself as big brother. I'm not sure why, but that's basically what it is. So, a fancy party, wake up next day. Turns out they're basically dirt poor despite being nobility. Now, in the book, do they really explain exactly why the family is like this? Not really. They do not explain why, except they just rule this land and they just basically have money to basically keep their own house. Yes, so after the wedding, 3 of Well's brothers leave to become adventurers. They agree to give up their lines of succession and basically leave the family in order to start their own lives. And if you're curious, though, do they return again in the book when they leave? No, not really. For some reason, basically, it's just like this for some reason. It is Herman, Paul, and Helmut. Remember, Eric, basically, he does leave too. It's basically the ones who are blood ones. Paul, Helmut, and Eric. Yeah, so... Yeah, so then, of course, basically, no long after the wedding itself, the way it's kind of shown is that because the brothers are gone, so you have Will go and gather fire. First, you have basically look for something in the library, and apparently, get this, the father cannot read. Now, here's the thing: Will does basically understand Japanese characters, a Keiji. Which I do appreciate they kept this in because this is very important to the character. I'll keep bringing this up because there's not something cut per se from the anime, but from what I could tell, nothing all that big per se. Like, there's nothing skimmed over per se. I'll get to it. So, then he tries this crystal ball, tries his magic apathy, and it's very powerful. Then comes basically the guy who becomes Will's master. Who is this guy, I might ask? His name is Alfred Rainford. Yes. Ooh, if you're curious, though, they don't list off exactly who voiced him in the anime. Yeah, some of the characters, they don't really list off exactly who voiced them, per se. Yeah, so there's also a small change. Now, Alfred isn't just where you sense something. They have Will looking for the woods, and comes across Alfred. Now, they do cut the. Now, this is very. Now, this is next bit here is similar to the book itself, from what I can tell, anyways. Because you have Alfred Sharp asking Wells' name. He doesn't say it per se, but later he does know his name. Was this a change to the book? No. No, it wasn't. This actually was pretty accurate from what I can tell. So, he teaches him magic over the course of a couple weeks. Is this around the same time as the book? I believe so. He, of course, teaches him various forms of magic. Now, you might be curious to in episode 2. Do they rush the magic per se? Not really. And, of course, also, they bring up the fact that he can't technically tell his family about it because whole thing of, like, suggestion, whatever. So, he keeps himself. Then, of course, that's the whole zombie stuff. And, then, of course, he gets purified. They don't refer to it as talking corpses. So it's like they changed the name for some reason in the anime. I think it's like wandering. It's like wandering ghost. I think it is. So then he purifies him. Now in the book, it mentions he's managed to get his robe and his magic bag. I assume the magic bag would be bigger because the way they describe it. In the anime, it's a small pouch. That apparently is a magical bag, and somehow you see able to get that thing. Despite looking like, though, that the body would completely vaporized, well, at least disappeared. And then, of course, after he's purified, then we have a time skip. Now, I should point out, though, in the book, they only jumped ahead about... Because here's the thing. They only jumped ahead 2 years in the book. Where he was 8 and basically lies application and do various stuff and become Magic Academy. This, now, do I have a really big problem they cut to some of the stuff? They do mention the book they apparently did practice his magic a lot in the woods. And it's there in the woods that his family does own, per se. So it's not like he's going to destroy a lot of the stuff. It was recommended by his family for him to do this. Now, he doesn't bring up the fact he was a student of this guy. Now, in the book he does. They cut this out probably for time. Probably because they wanted to speed the story along here. So, then, of course, basically, they jump ahead, like, roughly about 6 years later. He's like, well, it's not exactly he's 12, per se. I think it's implied he's supposed to be about 15 at this point in time. He's 15 years old. He's basically at, like, if you think of the way he looks in the covers of books, that's basically looks, and he also has a particular outfit he wears. Though they do have flash forward in the first episode, where they do show exactly what he looks like, where he wears the outfit his master wore. Now, in the anime, they have more of the cloak. Yeah, they do in fact have more of the cloak, and like part of the thing. He doesn't wear like the same green sash, and of course, they show off like a few women he's staying with in the anime. Who are these women, you might ask? They're not identified here. It's like basically, it's similar to another anime I've seen, which is, if I remember correctly, I believe this was, Cautious. It was not Cautious. It was I do remember the name of the anime. It was the world's finest assassin who's reincarnated as an aristocrat, where they had this flash forward, which I don't think they got to in the books per se, where he's like basically an assignment with the 3 girls. This is similar to End Courses. He did show off this house he lives in, which they do show off in episode 3. Then we jump ahead a few years later. We actually meet people he actually becomes friends with. Yes, in episode 3, you can kind of think of episode 3 as the episode where, like, a lot of stuff basically explored in the Hera books. We see a debut of 3 characters: Erwin von Arman, Luis Yurida Adriela Outback is a blue hair girl, and Eliana Susan Hepburn. Now, the guy himself does get various women involved with the anime, but do these 2 girls become, like, romantic attached to them? Yes. Well, one does, and so does the other one. Yep, they both do. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it per se, which is good. So, the habits where this has been now, this is a bit of a condensing per se. Now, is a lot of stuff happens over the course of this episode that was cut out? From what I can tell from reading the book, not much per se. Aside from the fact they jump straight to here to the next episode, which I thought was quite weird. It's like, oh, he walks up and oh, boof, he's at the academy because he's on scholarship. So we introduce these three characters, and these three follow the whole episode. He's just basically there as a supporting character in his own series. So they basically form a party together, and of course, they want him to join a party, and then he, of course, meets up with the leader of the city from some wolves. Of course, for party form, and of course, they mentioned this party has to be like, well, so there's also Erwin. He basically is like a swordsman of the group. It's been quite interesting, though, to actually get introduced to other characters in the series, which I'm very much looking forward to. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm very looking forward to it. Now, by the way, sad to say, Erwin is voiced by Billy Kemitz in the anime. Yes. The same guy who sadly passed away last year. Yes. Passed away just last year. So, yeah, sadly, he would never come back to the anime. Luis is voiced by Karma Lee, who I think she does an excellent job voicing her. Mm-hmm. As for Ileana, she is voiced by Erica Martinez. Great job as a character. Weldon, if you're curious about him, he is voiced by Benjamin Diskin. That's who voiced him in the series. Now, you might be curious though. Let's see. Who voices this awesome master he has in the series? He is voiced by KG Tong. Yes, that is who voiced. He's a Chinese voice actor who does stuff in English. Yeah, he actually. I don't think he's done. Let's see how many he's done. Let's see. He's in Jujutsu Kaisen. This is interesting. Anybody who's a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen, if you're curious though, he is the voice of Saito Gojo, as in the crazy character who appears on some of the covers in the manga. Yeah, one of the coolest characters who appears in the series. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's who he voices. Um, he's voiced of Koji Kashin from Boruto. He's the voice of Segumi Sagawa from Demon Slayer. Appeared in the first season of the show. Let's see, who is this character here? Oh, it's basically one of the Hashras. Yes, I believe this is the Wind Hashra. Yes, he's the voice of Wind Hashra in the series. Oh, he's in Dragon Ball Super, the Bing Zoom Entertainment dub. Santina from Seven Deadly Sins. Hendrickson from Seven Deadly Sins. That's it. Small handful of series, which I thought was quite nice. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then, of course, basically, thanks to the whole thing, the wolves, they're inviting the party by, of course, basically well, one guy we're introduced here is basically, we have Burkhart Reistedt, who's voiced by the awesome Patrick Stoltz. Yeah. Now, they're also voiced by Duke Beinritter. For some reason, no credit for his voice actor. Yeah, I'm not really sure why. It's just that they don't give credit for some reason. Yeah, they don't give credit for his voice acting. I'm not really sure why. But he does in episode 3. He basically, they do bring up the fact that when they meet him, of course, they bring along his friends too, which, yes, that's kind of happened in the book too. So they did mention the guy who showed up, Alfred mentioned, happened last episode, that he would work for them. The fact that he also had a reward for him for returning him all the stuff that was basically lost in which was quite nice. And of course, an official party. So apparently, Alfred left behind. He had no, let's just say, no offspring. He had no spouse. So basically, because the fact that Wilf was his apprentice, he gets a whole house to himself. Yes, the very same house that is seen in the flash forward in the first episode of the series. A student having a mansion in the first episode, and he doesn't have a title yet. He's a noble with no title. He, of course, gets a party, which does follow him throughout the course of the series, what I read, and I'm definitely looking forward to what happens next. These were 3 really good episodes. I do appreciate I love how episode 3 because 4 does technically finish the book 1, but it does start happening book number 2. So I'm going to say that for later. As for when I get back to the series, well, that will basically happen. Well, here's the thing. I have read Zero Book 21 and read that next, and then read Book 2, and then I'll come back to the series. Now, if you're curious, if you get a chance to read this light novel, check out the fan translation of the thing, because there's not really a official English translation of this book for some reason. I don't know why, but for some reason there is no official translation of this book. Just not really sure why. It's just that there is no English translation. You might be curious though, is there a translation of the manga version of the story? Let me take a look at it here, because basically this is quite interesting. In the case of the manga, nope. No English translation. Not really sure why. If you're curious about light novels in Japan, it started in April 2014, and the last book was actually released just 5 months ago. The manga is... So, they never really say more light novels per se. They say the light novel series is over, but who knows? The manga only started back in just a year after that one. Yep. I'm definitely looking forward to reviewing the rest of the series because it looks interesting. I am just purely enjoying it. Oh, and Wilt's father, he's voiced by Kyle McCarthy. McCarley, excuse me. Yes, that's who voices him in the English dub. Halburn from Seven Deadly Sins was one character he voices. He is Silas Norman from the Aztec War. Mark, a character named Mark from Joe's Avengers, probably from the one of our other series. Aruka, yes, he is the second one he plays. He plays Quilton Finn. Maybe guitar character, I'm not sure. Preston from Hunter 2011. Nirachina Gorgana from Golden Wind. Yoshiro from Demon Slayer. Regulus Cornelius from the most recent season of ReZero. Yep. Yeah, that's who he voices in the series. Mm-hmm. So, this is definitely going to be something that I'm looking forward to going forward. How many episodes of the series is going to be? I don't know. It just depends on basically how long it takes to get through it. Okay, so that's basically. I thought I have time to do a comic corner, but it's gonna have to wait a bit because I have a stream to do in 9 minutes. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.